Hi sophomores. So in this video, I'm going to talk through the presentations that you have to look at for this week in order to create your rough draft for your very own website design. So the first good understanding that we should have is what is design. As you can see here, here's a textbook definition of design. However, through this you can see that pretty much design encompasses pretty much everything in life that is aimed to achieve has a designated goal, and then design is the way you get that goal to be accomplished. So that is design. As you can see here, there are different elements of design. There's architectural design, so designing buildings. There's basic graphic design. As you can see, the McDonald's logo, so somebody had to come up with that, and it's a trademark and very well known around the world. So as you can see, design is a very powerful tool. Designing phones, the way the phones that we use are designed is also a type of design. And lastly, fashion. So fashion is also a type of design. And so you can see the versatility of design through these couple examples that we have here. So we're going to go through the 7 basic elements of visual design. So this is just visual design. For other types of designs, there's different elements, but this is just a refreshment of the type of designs that you should be thinking about when you create your website design. So the first one is line. As you can see here, both in photography and in sketching, you can work with lines, and that's the type of message that you're trying to convey. So think about that. The second one is shape. You can either have circles or squares or triangles. So that's how that could be incorporated into your design, maybe in the background or the way the header is made up. So think about that. Third, direction. So this one might be a little difficult to apply to your website design, but however, is something to keep in mind. The way you want the viewer's eyes to go through the website. So that has to do with the direction of your design. So that's something to keep in mind. Then we have size. Again, this is one of those where it might be too difficult to apply to your website, but still feasible. Either you can be having your button, the pages bigger, or having the body bigger than most elements. So that's a couple ways that you would be able to play with the size of your website design. We have texture. So obviously, we can't touch computer screens, and feel the texture, but that is possible to create the effects of a texture. So if you want, maybe as you can see there, the elephant skin. If you would like that maybe as a background or as the button background, that's something to think about. Of course, that takes more advanced skills in the programs Illustrator or Photoshop, but it's definitely feasible. And lastly, we have color. So this is definitely a big one when it comes to web design. Make sure that you're picking colors that are complementary of each other and that don't clash too much, so that it doesn't distract the viewer from what is important, which is information. Design should be a complement to the information that you try and portray onto your audience. Oh, my bad. That was not the last one. This is the last one, I believe. Value has to do with how much emphasis you put on a certain aspect of your design. So that is also kind of has to do a little bit of color. So deciding between a darker shade or a lighter shade, depending on what you would like to use in your website. And now we're going to go through the 7 key principles of design. The first one is balance. So making sure that aesthetically your design has a good balance to it. With the website layouts that we're going to be using, this shouldn't be too much of a problem. Each one is balanced well enough where it shouldn't come across as an issue. Gradation. So if you remember in Kim's website, she used gradation on the navigation bar. It went from orange to yellow. So that's something to think about. And that's an example that you can do in your own very own website design. Third, repetition. Kim also had that as well. If you remember, her background was, I believe, lemon slices that kept repeating. And so that's something to keep in mind to do on your website if you would like to do so. Contrast. So this really helps in bringing points across. So, for example, if you would like to have your navigation really stick out, you would have your navigation be, very much in contrast with the rest of the colors that you'll be using with your website. So that's something that to think about and to, ponder as you make your website. Harmony. So this one's a little bit different little difficult to explain, but it kind of has to do with, if we go back, kind of has to do with balance as well. So just making sure that there's a nice balance and harmony. It shouldn't be a problem either, as long as you're picking colors that are complementary and that go well with each other. If not, then it could come across as an issue if it's just random colors all over the place. But you can also make that work if you work with the other principles. Dominance. So, that also has to do a little bit with contrast. If you want something to stick out, of course you're going to make it much different than the rest of the website. If you wanted your banner to really stick out, you would create a banner that is much different than the rest of the website and really pops out what the audience first sees as they scroll down the page. Unity has to do with balance and harmony as well. Just making sure that everything goes well together. That's pretty much it. So just making sure that you do pay attention to those small things as you design your website. And so that's the last principle of the design concepts presentation. And so now that you know a little bit about that, we're going to go into the common website layouts presentation. And so the website layout that we worked with Kim's is one of many that you can use in order to design your own website. You have the full liberty to pick whichever layout you want, as long as it encompasses these 4 zones. The first one is the header. The second one is the content/navigation. Third one is the body, and then the fourth is the footer. So these can be positioned in many different ways. I'm going to go through some examples. As you can see here, the header is at the top and the footer is on the bottom. This is a pretty standard type of layout, as well as this one, in which the only thing that switches is navigation either being on the left or the right. You can also have the navigation on the top and the side. So that's a feasible layout that you could be using for your very own website. You can also just have the navigation at the top with the content in the middle and no navigation on the side. So there's different layouts that you can definitely think about. And this is the less commonly seen but also feasible that you could use is the navigation both on the top and the bottom of your content. And so if you really want your user to be able to go from page to page once they reach the bottom of your screen, that's a layout that could be useful for that. You can also have your navigation share the space at the top of your header, and that's also a little bit less commonly seen because you do want to give that navigation a bit of a space in order to navigate through your different pages and to also make sure that the header pops out. But if you want to go ahead with this layout, that's also possible. You can have the navigation of both sides, and again, this is one of the lesser known ones, but also possible if you want your user to be able to access your pages on whether their mouse is on the left or right hand side, and then the footer and the header are in their respective places. And so those are some of the layouts that you could be using and that you will have the ability to choose from, apart from Kim's website layout that you already worked with. And so here are a couple examples of the layouts that we just talked about. As you can see here, the header is at the top, the navigation is next, you have your content and your footer at the bottom. where the social media icons are. Wikipedia is set up differently. You have your header at the top, your navigation on the left-hand side, your content right in the middle, and then your footer is at the bottom. It's cut off here, but the footer is at the bottom if you ever go to the Wikipedia page. So this old ITA logo, which is the one that you saw in the content video, this one follows the navigation on the right-hand side. You have your header right there, then you have your content. You have your header at the top, then the content in the middle, the footer at the bottom. This one again is cut off, but if you went to it, it would have the footer at the bottom and the navigation on the right-hand side. So BuzzFeed works with the header and the navigation on top, as well as the navigation on the side. So as you can see on BuzzFeed, you can click to different links on this right-hand side of the page, and then there's the content in the middle, as well as a footer. Again, it's cut off, but if you went to the website, you would be able to see that there. This other website on photography galleries follows a header, navigation, content, and then it has a navigation in the footer at the bottom. Again, this one's cut off, but if you went to the website, you would see that the navigation and the header are at the bottom. Amazon is one of those where you can see that the header and navigation share space. So the header is on the left-hand side, including the search bar, and the navigation is on the right-hand side, which includes the different types of links where you can go to, such as accessing your account, Prime, list, cart, etc. You then have your content where you can shop for whatever you would like, and then your footer at the bottom. Craigslist follows the header on the top, content in the middle, and then the two navigations on the side. So as you can see, you can search up the you can search up different topics on the right-hand side, and on the left-hand side, there's also the different aspects of Craigslist, such as the About Craigslist, and Craigslist TV, and other things like that. And then you have your footer at the bottom. And so that is the last example of those website layouts. And so the last thing I will say is that make sure to keep these concepts in mind and the type of layout that you will do as you start to design your website. Remember that what you're turning is a rough draft, although you should put in 100% effort into this. The purpose of this is that you turn in a rough draft so that I can look at it and be able to give you feedback, so that when the next week, when the final draft is due, it's improved, and then it's a website layout that you can easily work with and that you very much appreciate. So, like always, please reach out if you have any questions, either through the GroupMe, email, or my phone number is on Canvas as well. And so any methods, please reach out if you have any questions, and I'll see you soon.